Hello, everyone. Thank you for an excellent first week of discussion in effective communication skills for the workplace. I appreciate everyone's contributions, a lot of great examples, a lot of insights from your own experience. Jill started us off real well with her example of dealing with that person in the organization that didn't see the need for doing the reporting the way that Jill understood it had to be done, and getting that person on board, and then taking the next step and conversing with other managers to make sure that everybody was on the same page so that in the future things were reported and recorded in the same way. That's a great example of how internal communication should work, both in the sense of kind of the top down from management to the person who is doing the work and kind of explaining why this needed to be done the way that you were saying, and then especially taking that incident and saying, hey, there's something that needs to be addressed in a systemic way, and going ahead and doing that. Thank you for that example. Then Chloe, Jill, and Christina had a great conversation about credibility and how we can have all of the skills of internal communication. We could be able to write great emails. We could have face-to-face conversations. We could write a outstanding guide or guidelines for a job or a situation. But if we don't have credibility, if the people that we're sharing this information with don't trust us, it kind of falls apart. So it's as the three of you pointed out, it's very important to speak honestly, to have your words, to say what you mean. It's the credibility issue is absolutely vital. Lakeisha also gave us a great example of how internal communication isn't just from the top down, that although that's extremely important and the message of the organization and the mission of the organization needs to be clearly communicated to all the employees, that communication in the opposite direction from people who are actually doing the work up to management and leadership needs to happen. And Lakeisha gave a great example of how using surveys and using email can generate some feedback, and then if the leadership acts on that feedback, it makes a huge impact. I mean, obviously, face-to-face conversations are awesome, but that can't always happen. But even more impersonal ways of using internal communication can have a great effect if people feel like they're listened to. And Lakeisha gave a great example of that. Thank you for that, Lakeisha. And then Vanessa gave a great example from her experience in her food tech startup company, her international company, how if information isn't shared and isn't documented real well, it can lead to really poor results. And and sometimes this happens in organizations that are smaller. Vanessa, you talked about how this is a startup. There's only 8 employees. It's really tough to get everything done. You're wearing different hats. People are traveling all over the world. It's understandable that things would fall through the cracks. But you gave a really good example to us of how important internal communication is, and when it doesn't happen, how that can really have detrimental effects. We talked a little bit, some of you talked a little bit about, is there a job title of internal communicator? Are there organizations that have a person who's responsible for internal communication? And there are, if you Google it and you look around, there are some places where there's a person with that title. More often, there's somebody who has that as part of their job portfolio, that they're also doing some external communication, but they have a internal communication piece that's part of their responsibilities. So it does exist, but I think the more what's more common is that that's shared by just about everybody in the company. And if you think about it, everybody has some responsibility as an internal communicator, because everybody in an organization has a different perspective, sees different things happening. So whether it's somebody who's on the front lines of customer service all the way up to the CEO, all of those people need to share information with each other so that the organization could run as effectively as possible. It matters. It matters if something's not working in customer service. People need to know that. Management needs to know that. And management and leadership needs to communicate a clear vision of what the mission of the company is. If that doesn't happen, people, as some of you point out, people don't know why they're doing what they're doing. And if they don't have a why, they're not going to work nearly as effectively as they would if they did know why. And maybe that's the thing about internal communication. The key thing about internal communication is it's not just sharing data, although that's very important, not just sharing directives and guidelines, but it's making sure that the why is clearly communicated, and that when people who are doing the work have problems and aren't able to execute the mission, that they're able to be heard by management and leadership so that real adjustments can be made, and that people in management and leadership are willing to listen and to make those adjustments. So again, thanks for a great first week. I'm looking forward to more excellent discussion, and if there's any way that I can be helpful to you, please reach out to me in the way that's most convenient to you. Thanks.